All right, welcome. I am Beth Rebarger, and I'm the manager of Harper Wellness. And if the two of you just want to go ahead and introduce yourselves and maybe a little bit about your background at Harper, but also maybe before Harper.
Sure. Hi, Beth. I'm Doug Spiwak. I'm the Director of Athletics and Fitness at Harper. I just finished my 31st year there, but there was a life before that too. I started out my career in athletics as an athletic trainer, worked for the University of Illinois and then Northern Illinois University. Had a brief stint with arena football and been at Harper ever since. With a master's degree in exercise physiology and fitness leadership and a focus on athletic training and sports medicine, I'm very glad that you asked me to come here today to share what I know from the medical aspect of it, as well as the second half of my career, which has been in leadership in athletics. As a director of athletics at Harper and as well as a leader both regionally and nationally. I'd be glad to share with our students and our members and everybody else anything they would like to hear, and they're also welcome to contact me after this as well too.
Thank you, Doug. And for you, Nelson?
Yeah, Nelson Gord, recently named the head baseball coach here at Harper. So excited about that. But I've been in the area and actually been at Harper before, way back in 2005. But I'm a local product, went to Buffalo Grove High School, played football and baseball, and actually sat the bench on the basketball team for a couple years too. But then played at UIC at Illinois Chicago, played baseball there and spent a few years in the minor leagues after that. But I've been coaching and training kids and working with athletes for the entirety of that time in different capacities at the high school level, at the college level, and then, really just serving as a mentor for a lot of guys and helping them through their journey from high school baseball to college and then, life after athletics. So.
Thank you. And welcome to Harper. I myself am a former athlete. I played volleyball in college at Kirkwood Community College for 2 years and then transferred to a private 4-year in Iowa, Mount Mercy University, played volleyball, ran track. And so sports has been really something that's been a part of my life forever. And even thinking about my career now, I still apply a lot of the lessons that I've learned in athletics, but also even non-athletic sort of things like working out and exercise. So I felt like this was a topic that not only hit home for me, but I know a lot of maybe current Harper athletes, but even people who might not have never played sports, but thinking about exercise and how maybe some of those skills can still be applied to the workplace and beyond. And so that's kind of a little bit of background of why I wanted to pull you all together and just ask you a few brief questions based off of your own experiences and time as a coach and athletic director. So, in thinking about that, in your experience, can you name one or two life lessons that either of you have learned, or maybe you've seen student athletes learn on the court or on the field, in the pool, et cetera, that can often be translated over to other life experiences such as the workplace, relationships, learning, and so forth?
Sure, and I'll be brief because this is, one of the reasons I'm so happy to have Nelson on our staff is this is his area of expertise. And while I see it from an overview and a programmatic standpoint, it's my job as an athletic director to make sure that we have great people on our staff that are really focused on helping students be successful. Two of the main things that I would focus on is first of all persistence. Persistence is probably one of the most important qualities to have, whether it's your family, your exercise routine, your education, and because everybody is facing hurdles today, our society is facing them in several different fronts right now, and having that level of persistence that I'm not going to give up. I'm the last man standing. I'm going to keep going it, because the person who's still there at the end is the one who's going to benefit. And so persistence is extremely important in anything that you do. And that has to come from your heart. You first have to have a desire to do something, and then don't stop. Certainly if there are negative consequences and we can get into injuries and things like that, there is a time to take a rest. But staying at what you want to do, and no matter what comes in your face, what hurdles you have to go over, you'll get to your goals. It may take longer, it may be harder than you thought it was, but persistence is the most important quality. And the other thing I'd say is important is that everyone needs a team. And this is sort of a theme that we're working on with student affairs, but it's something I've lived my entire life. So as much as you think you can accomplish as an individual, surround yourself with the best possible team. You know, surrounding myself with professionals like yourself and Gordon, Nelson. I keep saying Gordon, I'll get it right one of these days. I apologize, Nelson. Nelson, Gord, is extremely important, because you can't be successful without a team, and it's that team that you need to rely upon, and they may rely upon you. But even more important, everybody in that team will have a certain set of skills that will make you better as an individual functioning within that team. And so I know we're going to talk a little bit about leadership later, but you know, everybody, not everybody can be a leader, but everyone can lead by example and persistence and those kind of things that will come through to make your team better. Nelson.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so applicable right now. The big thing for me are just relationships and, you know, fitting in that team dynamic. And then also the diversity piece, I think is so important. You know, having played a variety of different sports, you're exposed to so many different people, and they're your teammates, right? And I think before you see anything else, that's what you see them on. You see the color of their jersey, you know, not the color of their skin. And it's been a challenging, you know, few weeks, few months, few years here. And I think that's been the hardest thing for me to understand about it, is that I don't have that mindset. I've never been in a team setting that's had that mindset. And I think if you look across it, you don't see many athletes that, you know, are falling into one direction or another. And it's because of that, you know. So I think it's been so important, just in my worldview, you know, being an athlete and understanding that every single person has value. Everybody brings something to the table. Then also understanding like the internal team dynamics of, hey, you know, you come in, you're the young kid on the block, and you kind of develop into the leader, and you know, how that kind of evolves over time. So I think really just those two things that all go back to the commonality of the relationships, you know. So it's really carried over into the business life. It's carried over into, you know, personal relationships, but it all stems from, you know, just growing up an athlete and being a part of teams.
Sure. Thank you for sharing. And I just kind of want to point out a couple of things that Doug mentioned. Persistence, and then having a team, which I think is huge. So no matter who you are, if you're on an athletic team, or maybe it's that particular club and organization, it's really imperative to find that team. And, you know, I'm just thinking about our students last week, the Black Student Union, just really showing their voice and their team in a different way was really inspiring me. And just, I think that's so important at Harper, whether you're playing on a sports team or just trying to find your own voice. It's kind of that persistence that, you know, someone might not hear you, but, you know, it takes hard work, it takes persistence, but it also takes a team coming together and making sure that you're using one another to support you along the way. So I just wanted to point that out, Doug. So thinking about that, I want to go on to the next question of, you know, we think about sanctioned sports a lot when we think about athletes. And so, yes, they are one subset of the population, but for those that aren't maybe your traditional athletes in high school or college beyond, do you have any thoughts on what, you know, any kind of physical activity like exercise, playing pickup games, weightlifting, or anything that can teach us about life in general?
So yeah, and there's one I use a lot because it's, you know, it's part of my family. You have to find what works for you, but you need something active. You're training your mind when you go to school. You also have to train your body, and the two work together. In my situation, I had never even heard of the sport of rock climbing. And my daughter dabbled in a little bit of softball and some other things. But she tried something new once. And I would tell you, it doesn't necessarily have to be rock climbing, but try something new, and you might like it. And then, the next thing I know, she's competing, at a national level. And to this day, still enjoys it, goes out every weekend, and is part of nature. And you can learn things from exercise. So when you look, and I'll use this analogy because I like it. Sport climbing teaches you persistence. They will stick with a problem and go at it over and over and over until they figure out a solution. So it's problem solving. It also, it has to do with working your strength, your aerobic capacity, your flexibility. It's basically everything you ever wanted out of a sport, with the exception of falling long distances from a mountain. But they also, one of the primary things they teach is safety. So that happened to be her niche that she found, but whether it's recreational leagues or just exercising in a group, there's so many things that you can find out there, especially through technology, through shared interests, through clubs, whether it's at your work or your school. And if there isn't a club or an organization, you can start one. It's easier to start a group chat or a room of people with a common interest. And I'd say that's probably one of the keys that I've learned over time is exercise. And exercising is being able to enjoy it with others, have that social aspect, as well as those people on your team that are going to encourage you. People always say, well, I get a gym membership and I didn't use it. Well, I always say, did you take a class where you put it in your schedule? Did you have a workout buddy who would say, hey, let's go work out, rather than, hey, let's go get a donut? So I think there's a lot of really good strategies out there. I know we're going to touch on some of them today, but there's a lot of good coaches out there. And I think, one of the things I'm saying now is our life coaches. But I think that you have to find what you enjoy, but you have to get moving and get up off of your seat and not be in meetings all day.
Fair. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the silver linings of this whole pandemic has been just being a little bit more aware of my own community. Normally I travel a lot, and I'm not going for as many walks around the neighborhood, but it's been really cool to see, people converting their garages into CrossFit gyms, and people out riding their bikes, and kids shooting hoops with their son or daughter in the front yard or the driveway. And, in each of those settings, I just have an incredible amount of respect for the person. They might not be ultra marathoners or, Olympians, but the commonality is that they're all trying to improve themselves, and they're all setting goals, and they're taking it one day at a time. Right. I've seen like countless stories on social media and stuff. People, they couldn't run a mile at the beginning of this thing, now they're putting in 5-6 miles. It's just, it's been neat to see kind of the evolution of that and the growth. And that's what, sports or athletics at any level does. It teaches you discipline and all the other, terms that we threw around already, but also how to just be the best version of yourself. And I think it's one of those areas that it's a little bit easier to see and a little bit more evident. But if you apply those same things into yourself professionally or in relationships, they're only going to get better and improve as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it reminded me, I was listening to a podcast of actually a really prominent CrossFit coach, Ben Bergeron, and he always talks about it's, a majority of us are not going to be pro athletes, right? Like that's just not our career. So we work out, yes, to be physically fit, and we exercise and, do these pickup games. But really the main point is that it teaches us to prepare for the unknown and the unknowable, which I think is really big in athletics and sports and fitness, is that we're sort of training our minds in the process as well. So when times like a pandemic that is unknown sort of hits, that it doesn't mean that we're perfect and we aren't going to struggle, but it's maybe a little bit easier to bounce back because we've trained not only our body, but also our minds for that process as well. So I like what you're saying in that. So thinking about that, I know you mentioned some strategies, Doug, but do you have any strategies for that motivation piece that you were speaking more to? Because I know that's something that a lot of folks struggle with.
Yeah, so I think you need to be introspective. If certainly there are ways to go to if it's a physical goal, I would recommend going to your fitness center or taking a course or something. But there's some testing that can be done to give you some baseline levels of where you're at as far as strength, endurance, flexibility, and body composition. I think it's well worth seeing a professional to get some baseline. Certainly, you want to start out with an exam by your physician, make sure you're healthy, and then I think you want to have you don't always want to do one thing. So I think variety is a great strategy, because if you're doing one thing all the time, you might be passionate about it. I mean, you might be a bike rider and that's all you want to do is ride bikes. But a good example is, they looked at cross country runners who they run, they run and run and run. But they realized that they need to put a strategy of strength training into it because they lacked upper body strength, which is obvious from the training, but it was necessary for their overall health and build, and actually help produce more successful runners. So I think variety is very important. Getting some professional advice is extremely important. Not everyone can afford a personal trainer, but you can take a class like the class we offer at Harper, and you get the benefit of that instruction as well as an organized workout plan. Nelson.
Oh, I don't know if Beth's trying to ask another question or wanted me to follow up with that one. The big thing is I would just say, well, two things. One, I remember being a young kid and I was kind of a chubby little guy. And it was intimidating for me when I first went around, some of the bigger, faster, stronger athletes, some of the kids whose bodies had changed sooner than mine. And I was embarrassed. So I'd lock myself in my bedroom and try to do push-ups. And the same thing carries over to, college students to adults. They don't think that they measure up, or they might be embarrassed. Find a group that supports you. I know that, Doug, you said about taking a class or being involved in something like that. Take it slow, find, a friend, find somebody that's going to encourage you and hold you accountable, because it makes a world of difference, and it makes putting day after day after day a lot easier, than trying to face this monumental task or have this image of where you should be. So I think that would be the big thing. Take it one day at a time and find a friend and find somebody that's going to encourage you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think it goes back to that persistence piece, where a lot of times on social media, you see the end product, right? You don't see the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. So I think that can be a little disheartening for some folks if they're not finding the results, or they're sort of comparing themselves to other people. But I think you can't compare yourself to someone's chapter 72 when you're just on your chapter 2 yourself. And so I think that's huge. So last question to wrap it up here. I wanted to ask you, as a coach, but also a leader within athletics, do you have any advice or thoughts on the topic of leadership? So more specifically, what does it mean to be a leader, and what do those specific qualities look like?
So that's a great question, Beth, and thank you. And I would say probably the most rewarding aspect of my career at this point is being able to take on leadership positions from the standpoint of being able to create something that will help others. I think my entire career has been focused on helping others achieve their goals. Whether it was an athletic trainer and I'm working with an athlete who blew out his knee, to post-surgical rehab, to getting back on the field and performing at a high level, to being able to put together a staff and put together an organization that is focused on helping others achieve their goals. I think the important aspects of leadership is, first of all, get some training. Some of the best leaders I've seen have been through the types of training that I've been through, and I can see them putting the training in action and how well it works. So training is very important. I've been through a couple of different leadership institutes. If there's opportunities for you to do that, do it. And that's both from a student and an adult or a professional standpoint. It's hard to take a leadership position without some training and some knowledge. I think it's important that as a leader, you understand who you are. One of the things I've recommended in the past and used in the past is the Strengths Finder, through Strengths Quest, to learn what your strengths are and how to lead in a positive manner. And then what leadership also teaches you is how to put together a team that's cohesive, but not only that, but how to make sure that team has input and you're using them in an effective way. A quick example, when I first took this position, I thought I had to be a commanding person. Thought I'd be in charge and I'm going to push things through my way. Well, I rapidly found out that didn't work and it wasn't one of my strengths. My strengths are more into uniting people and helping people to get together and work together and building that team. And ever since I realized that about myself, I learned how to lead in a way that helps the organization move forward.
Yeah, for me, I mean, leadership and love are kind of synonymous. I know it sounds a little bit goofy and a little bit poetic, but if you look at what it takes, it has to be unconditional, right? If you're a leader, it doesn't matter what you're going to get in return. You're doing it for the greater good of the team, the organization, the person that's to the right and left of you, so it can't be, based on anything that you're going to receive. So it's all about how you're serving people, how you're helping them get better. And as a result of that, ultimately the program that you're a part of, you're going to inadvertently reap the benefit of it. So I think that's a big thing. When people, you see, Doug, I think, you just said about how you felt like you had to be forceful and, step in there and take charge. When people try too hard, I think sometimes that divides teams rather than brings them together. So, the second part of that is just meeting them where they're at. Not everybody's going to respond to the same style of leadership or, the same thing in the same moment. Some people need a hug, other people need a kick in the butt, and knowing the timing and the right way to present that is, what earns that trust and helps move the ball forward.
I think that one final aspect on leadership, one of the things I experienced coming up is things I got and the places I got were because I asked questions and I asked, how do I do this? How do I become the leader? How do I get on the executive committee? How do I become the president? And I went after it. Not everybody's like that. I think a true leader is someone who is a person who reaches back and says, well, how do I help you get to this spot? How do I help you get to the next level? My goal last year as a president of our national organization was to improve diversity. So as a leader, I helped put forward a diversity statement in our organization, but that wasn't enough. I went to the other members, professionals in my organization that weren't represented and said, how can I help you? Is this something that you're interested in? Tell me your story. Tell me, is this something you desire and what's keeping you from becoming what you want to be? I think that's extremely important that we reach out to others and help them be successful as a leader. Not just your successes individually or as a team, but how do we help society as well?
Yeah, that's great, Doug. Thank you for sharing. And just thinking about my own coaches, my own bosses that I've had in the past, it's not the ones that went in and tried to take charge and just take command. It was really those leaders or those coaches that stopped to listen and really tried to connect with me that made the most impact and that I will remember forever. So I really liked what both of you were saying in that, in terms of finding your own leadership, but also making sure that you're meeting students where they're at, you're meeting people where they're at. So thank you.
I'd just like to say one last thing. I haven't had the chance to shake Nelson's hand and congratulate him, and we really haven't even met since 2005 when you were at Harper. And I want to cordially welcome you again to Harper, and I'm looking forward to the day when when we can maybe fist bump or whatever's allowed at that time. But I may even give you a hug when no one else is looking and congratulate you, because I'm really proud to have you part of our Harper team.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm game for the hug too.
Okay.
Thank you to both of you for your time. And again, I also look forward to meeting you in person, Nelson, and then Doug. I'll take you up on a hug as well if you're giving out hugs, because I know you're the.
I'll show the love, man.
So thank you again, and I appreciate the two of you. And go Hawks!
Go Hawks!
Go Hawks!
Thank you.